What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here, right here on the Broken Havoc podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite from July 28th, 2021, emanating from Charlotte, North Carolina. It is Fight for the Fallen. What are my overall thoughts on this show? I thought this was a really good show. The crowd was energetic. Of course, we had that announcement with Tony Schiavone announcing that AEW Rampage will be at the United Center August 20th. And if that is not an indication that AEW got something big planned, especially when it comes to CM Punk, I don't know what is. I definitely do think that CM Punk will make his debut, or there will be probably some sort of announcement happening at that particular show this coming August 20th. So I'm really excited to see what happens there. But I'll talk more about that later on in this review. Of course, it is Fight for the Fallen. We had a lot of crazy stuff happen in the show. I thought the beginning of the show was good. The middle of the show was kind of okay, but the end of the show, just blew me out of the water. I did not expect AEW, especially TNT, to go that far when it came to the deathmatch style. I knew it was going to be watered down a little bit, but from what we have seen with Nick Gage and Chris Jericho, that match was intense, especially near the end, and there's a lot of crazy spots that happened. So, that was really my overall thoughts on the show. I'm going to run down the show from top to bottom, starting with that 10-man elimination tag team match with the Elite, or I should say the Elite Squad, versus the Dark Order. What are my thoughts on this match? I thought this was a really good match. This was a whole spot fest. I'm going to be 100% honest. This was a whole spot fest. But that is a good thing because, there's a lot of spots. This match was extremely fast-paced. There was a lot of things that was going on in this match. But one thing that I really enjoyed was basically the entrances. The entrances in this match were really hilarious, especially the one with the Elite. The one with the Dark Order looked amazing. I loved the fact that, they had the Dark Order. They had a video package play of Hangman Page and the Dark Order happening and all that stuff. And then, of course, the Dark Order with Hangman Page came in all together. That was really cool to see. But the Elite, it was really stupid, but this was in promotion for that new Space Jam movie. That's why they had a lot of basketballs, which was pretty funny. I will say that, but I don't know. It was cheesy, but what can you expect from the Elite, right? Of course, it's supposed to be cheesy. That's the thing about the Elite. They're heels as well. They don't care. So that's the thing about that. But let's talk about the match. Again, this whole match was really cool. Of course, we had the stipulation basically saying that if the Dark Order loses, Hangman does not get his title shot at All Out. And I was shocked to see that they actually did lose. And as of right now, Kenny Omega has no opponent for the All Out pay-per-view September 5th. So, what are they going to be doing with that? We have no idea. Maybe this can play out into the storyline. We do not know. But let's run down the match. Of course, it's a 10-man elimination tag team match, so it's elimination style. Hangman and Omega start, so they're the first ones that are going to start the match. But after the bell rings, Omega eventually tags Machine Gun, Carl Anderson, of course, one half of the Impact Tag Team Champions, my bad. Both Hangman and Anderson tag in. Hangman catches Anderson when hitting a crossbody. A brawl breaks loose after that. Dark Order suplexes the Elite. A brawl breaks loose on the outside after that. Alex Reynolds then superplexes Nick Jackson off the top rope on the outside. We get a couple chops by Hangman. Anderson and Reynolds fight it out. Each member of the Elite works on Reynolds in the corner. Uno tags in. Then each member of the Dark Order works on each other. Works on basically everybody. Works on Gallows in the corner. Enzuigiri stunner cover and a near fall. Anderson rolls up Reynolds. Reynolds gets eliminated. So he's the first one. Alex Reynolds is the first one to be eliminated. Dark Order surrounds Carl Anderson. Anderson in the shoulders of Uno. We get a fatality by Stu Grayson. By this point, Stu Grayson is on a roll. We get a cover and Anderson is eliminated. So Carl Anderson is the second one to be eliminated. John Silver begins to work on Matt Jackson. After that, we get a 450 splash by Stu Grayson. We get a cover and a near fall. Then proceeds to drop Kenny Omega. We get a neck breaker by Uno. Then Stu Grayson takes everybody out on the outside. Gallows works on Grayson on the crowd. Then we get a big boot by Grayson on Gallows. No, by Gallows on Grayson, my bad. But then Grayson jumps off that barricade, which it looked like, and drops Gallows onto the crowd. And what happens is Grayson and Gallows eventually get eliminated via countout, so both of them are eliminated. Omega and Evil Uno are in the ring. We get a kick by Omega. Then Evil Uno proceeds to hit a Hurricane Rana. Uno drops Omega. We get a cover and a near fall. Uno goes to the top. We get a senton bomb by Uno, but Omega's knees were up. Then Omega proceeds to hit a V-trigger. Then we get a one-winged angel by Omega on Uno. Evil Uno then gets eliminated. Then John Silver proceeds to hit a spear on Matt Jackson. We get repeated rights. Nick Jackson tags in. We get a high knee in the corner by Nick Jackson on John Silver. We get a bulldog by Nick Jackson. We get a spinning leg lariat by Nick Jackson on John Silver. John Silver's on the top. We get a cover. No, he's on the mat. We get a cover on Nick Jackson and a near fall. Backslide by Nick. Silver counters. We get a V-trigger by Omega on Silver. Then a super kick on Silver. We get a suplex by Omega. Omega takes the basketball, and after that, Matt Jackson pile drives Silver onto the outside when Nick tries to dunk the basketball, which, I mean, they're the Young Bucks. They can do whatever the hell they want. Then they proceed to hit the BTE trigger, my bad, and then proceed to eliminate John Silver. Of course, John Silver gets eliminated. I'm not going to lie. John Silver is really fun to see. Not only that, he's extremely over with the crowd. If you watch a couple episodes of BTE, you'll understand why. Then, of course, John Silver gets eliminated. Then Hangman is the last one. So it's Hangman versus the Elite Trio, of course, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. After that, Omega and Hangman face off, and by this point of the match, I will say this was the best part of the match. I loved the story that they were telling of Hangman not giving up. They're basically booking Hangman to be the ultimate babyface, and what I really enjoyed about this is the fact that he kept on kicking out, and oh my God, Don Callis and Jim Ross, especially Jim Ross. I mean, they were both arguing like crazy. Not only that, Jim Ross was on his A game in this match, especially during these spots. So Omega and Hangman face off. Omega spits on Hangman's face. Both exchange shots. Omega proceeds to hit a V-trigger. We get a forearm by Hangman, a super kick by the Bucks. Omega hits a Snapdragon suplex after that. We get a cover and a near fall. Nick and Omega take Hangman to the middle rope. We get a 450 splash on Hangman Page. We get a cover and a near fall. Omega misses a V-trigger, then misses a German suplex. Then we get a clothesline on Omega. The Bucks come in. Hangman takes control over the Young Bucks. Hangman with a moonsault, then misses a buckshot. Nick tries to go for the tombstone. We get a boot by Hangman on Nick Jackson. Then we get a double buckshot lariat on the Young Bucks by Hangman Page. Then proceeds to eliminate Matt Jackson. Omega takes the tag title, and the referee takes it away. But then Omega all of a sudden grabs the AEW World title, and then after that, what happens? He hits a Deadeye on Omega, but we get a freaking near fall. After that, Nick grabs the leg of Omega. Omega hits Hangman with the belt. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a V-trigger twice by Kenny Omega. Omega then proceeds to hit the one-winged angel and wins the match. Hangman Page will not face Kenny Omega at All Out. What are my thoughts on this match? This match was crazy. Again, if you guys saw me mix up my notes, I mean, this whole match was a freaking spot fest. I probably confused a couple people because of the fact that I was just literally rushing when I was taking notes. But I will say, this match was really enjoyable to watch. The crowd was on fire. Jim Ross on commentary was really good to see. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people were very critical of Jim Ross in AEW, considering the fact that, there's a couple botches that he says on commentary. But one thing I will say, I mean, Jim Ross, especially near the end, was really good. I really enjoyed him and Don Callis basically arguing. It was the funniest thing ever. But, yeah, I mean, that was that match. And what are my thoughts on Hangman losing and not facing Kenny Omega All Out? I mean, that was shocking. I expected the Dark Order and Hangman to win. But, I mean, from what we have seen, I mean, they're probably still continuing on the story of Hangman Page trying to get to the world title, and every time he tries to grab it, he eventually fails. So I do feel like I think this is part of the story that AEW is telling when it comes to Hangman Page. Who knows what's going to happen at All Out? I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff going on. September 5th. I mean, we got CM Punk coming in, most definitely. I definitely do think CM Punk is coming in. And a lot of people are saying he's probably going to be facing Omega. I don't think that's the case. I mean, that's the match that everybody wants to see. Everybody wants to see Punk and Omega. But I feel like when it comes to CM Punk's first feud, I do think it's going to be against Darby Allin, considering the fact that Darby Allin basically teased it. But I mean, that's for later on in this review. I mean, with Omega and Hangman not happening, I'm pretty disappointed. But I mean, at the end of the day, they could probably work us all out. AEW could probably work us all. Maybe this match is happening. We do not know. We're gonna have to see it for ourselves in the next coming weeks on Dynamite. All right, Pac is backstage, getting interviewed. Basically, he's talking about the Lucha Bros, and then Andrade and Chavo Guerrero Jr. come in. Says that the Lucha Bros are reviving in style, and Andrade says that he should treat them better. So basically, what are my thoughts on this segment? Of course, Pac is talking about Andrade and all that stuff. And the Lucha Bros, I mean, what are my thoughts on the Lucha Bros? I do have that belief that Andrade will eventually team with the Lucha Bros because of the fact that, I mean, it's just a pretty good combination and it's an awesome duo. And ever since they brought in Andrade, of course, on that Dynamite after Double or Nothing, I feel like, having Vicky Guerrero as a mouthpiece, I mean, I'm not really that big of a fan of that. Of course, we all wanted to see Thea Trinidad come in as the mouthpiece for Andrade, but of course she resigned she returned, I should say. She returned to the WWE, so that was off the table. So Chavo Guerrero Jr. is the best mouthpiece for Andrade, and I do think adding the Lucha Bros in that predicament, I think it's going to make for really good television, in my opinion. All right, we got Ricky Starks' FTW Championship celebration. Of course, we all know what happened. Ricky Starks beat Brian Cage 2 weeks ago at Fyter Fest Night 1 to win the FTW World Championship, which I will say, when Hobbs hit Brian Cage with the belt, and all of a sudden Ricky Starks just speared him out of nowhere and hit the 1, 2, 3, I swear to God, I went apeshit and the crowd went apeshit. That was an insane crowd reaction that I saw when Ricky Starks beat Brian Cage. I mean, I wasn't there. I saw it live on television, but I mean, the reaction from the crowd was really awesome, and I reacted exactly the way everybody else reacted. I just went apeshit in the house. Like, it was the funniest thing ever. But I mean, that was an awesome moment to see. Of course, Ricky Starks is your new FTW World Champion. But let's talk about the celebration. So there's it's like a typical celebration wrestling segment. Basically, he cuts a promo talking about winning the FTW title 2 weeks ago and getting rid of Brian Cage, and says that he couldn't forgive Brian Cage when he broke his neck and Cage did not check on him. And then he basically talks about, he continues to run down Brian Cage and says that he's selfish. And then all of a sudden Brian Cage comes in out of nowhere, because we all know last week they had that interview segment with Brian Cage saying that he loves celebrations, so you would assume that he was going to be in this championship celebration. And that's exactly what happened. So Brian Cage came in and basically attacks all of the band members. He takes the trombone and then breaks it. Starks, after that, throws the roses on Cage's face and then proceeds to escape. What are my thoughts on this segment? I thought this was not a bad segment. I just think that, the segment went a little bit too... This segment didn't go a little too long. I mean, I expected the segment to go longer, but the segment went by extremely fast. It was a really short segment, but hey, I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, this was not a bad segment. I do believe that we're eventually probably going to be getting a rematch with Ricky Starks and Brian Cage, but I don't think that I don't think that Brian Cage is going to be going over. I may be wrong. I mean, the FTW title is not really an official title. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But I mean, who knows what can happen when it comes to Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. I honestly do not know what's going to be happening. Adding this predicament of, all of this tension with Team Taz, it really has, for me at least, it gave me back more interest when it came to Team Taz, because when Team Taz first started, I really enjoyed it. But then later on, in the beginning of 2021, I thought they kind of started to become a little bit But then, of course, later on, after all this tension went on when it came to Brian Cage, Powerhouse Hobbs, Hook, and Ricky Starks, I really enjoyed what was going on, especially when that match happened with Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. So I really enjoyed the predicament there. I definitely do think that there's going to be a rematch happening with those two wrestlers. All right. We got a video package of the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi. This is his second time appearing on Dynamite. Not at the show, but in a video package form. Of course, the last time we saw Hiroshi Tanahashi was at the Jericho Anniversary show, in which he was basically just putting over Chris Jericho in that small video package. After that, we haven't seen Hiroshi Tanahashi at all. This is the official time we've seen Hiroshi Tanahashi, especially now because we got that Forbidden Door storyline happening. So there's a lot of stuff going on with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I mean, Switchblade Jay White just is on Impact Wrestling now, so that's there's a lot of stuff going on when it comes to this Forbidden Door storyline. So this video package of Hiroshi Tanahashi is basically talking about, the U.S. title and saying that, he's going to be challenging the winner of tonight's IWGP U.S. title match. Of course, we're going to be having Lance Archer go up against Hikuleo. So yeah, he's going to be challenging the winner. But so when I first saw this segment, I thought it was going to be on Dynamite, but apparently that's not going to be the case. It's going to be at the New Japan Resurgence show. So that's kind of a disappointment, but I mean, I would love to see Hiroshi Tanahashi on Dynamite. I mean, look, again, I'm as someone that doesn't watch a lot of New Japan, of course, I've only seen the main eventers. I mean, your Okadas, your Ibushis, and your Tanahashis, so those guys. So, it's great to see Hiroshi Tanahashi basically having this video package. And what I like about this is that it shows the viewer that is not familiar with New Japan Pro Wrestling, all these other wrestlers from all these different promotions. And, it's great to see. This Forbidden Door storyline is really a good thing, especially for somebody like me that doesn't watch a lot of New Japan. It gives you a perspective of like everything about what's going on outside of AEW. And that's great to see. Because I'm not the biggest New Japan Pro Wrestling watcher, but I mean, I know the main eventers like your Okadas, your Ibushi, your Kota Ibushis. I mean, Kota Ibushi's really good in the ring. I mean, he's really awesome, and of course, your Hiroshi Tanahashi's, the Ace Hiroshi Tanahashi. And of course, we also had the Painmaker Chris Jericho, which that gimmick was used in New Japan. So he came up with that gimmick when he was in New Japan, when he made his return to New Japan to have that match with Omega at the Tokyo Dome. So, yeah. We got FTR versus Santana and Ortiz. Overall thoughts on this match? I thought this was not a bad match, but this match ended early, mainly because of the fact that Cash Wheeler suffered a really horrific injury. When he was taken out of the ring, he basically sliced his right arm, and it was basically there was a puddle of blood, and it did not look really good at all. So I mean, that kind of ended the match really quickly. But FTR went over in this match. One thing I will say about the feud with FTR and Santana and Ortiz is I love the chemistry that these two teams have. Not only that, I love the chemistry that Dax Harwood and Santana have, because I feel like what's really nice about this feud is that I love the tension with Santana and Dax Harwood alone. I mean, those guys, when you look at their feud, like, you can tell, like, these guys hate each other. Not in real life, but in kayfabe. And that's what I really like. And, I love the story that's going on. Of course, this is part of the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle storyline, so that's really cool to see. But the match starts. Ortiz and Wheeler start. We got a side headlock takeover by Ortiz. We got a shoulder tackle by Wheeler. Wheeler goes to the outside. Harwood tags in. Santana tags in. Then Santana and Harwood lock up. Both exchange shots, then chops. Santana hits the three amigos, but that third amigo, you had Ortiz help him with that third amigo, which looked really awesome on Dax Harwood. Ortiz tags in. We get a spine buster by Harwood on Ortiz. Cash Wheeler works on Ortiz during the commercial break. Harwood tags in during the break. Once we're back from commercial break, Ortiz tags Santana. Works on FTR, drops Harwood. Then we get a catapult by Santana on Dax Harwood. Then takes out Wheeler to the outside. I think that was the spot where Wheeler cut his right arm and was bleeding profusely. Ortiz tags in. We get a roll-up and a near fall. We get a suicide dive after a kick out on Wheeler by Ortiz. We get a roll-up by Ortiz and a near fall. Powerbomb by Ortiz. Santana tags in. Then we get a frog splash by Santana. We got to cover and a near fall. We get a couple chops by Santana on Harwood in the corner. We got a German suplex by Santana. Clothesline by Harwood. Ortiz with the powerbomb. Then a tornado DDT on Ortiz by Wheeler. We get a powerbomb by Santana. We get a cover and a near fall. Ortiz tags in. Then an inside cradle by Harwood. We get a near fall. After that, we get a right hand by Dax Harwood. Takes out Ortiz he takes Ortiz to the top rope. Harwood tries to hit a superplex, but Santana comes in. Then Harwood proceeds to superplex Santana. Ortiz tags in. Then all of a sudden we get a brainbuster by Harwood on Ortiz. We get a cover and FTR win the match. So as you can see, after Cash Wheeler suffered that injury, Dax Harwood was taking the whole match right after. And apparently what happened was that after Cash Wheeler saw that he was bleeding profusely, he went immediately to the medic. Like, he went immediately to the doctor that was available backstage. So I mean, hopefully, he's okay. I mean, I hope he is. I mean, there was a lot of crazy things that went down in this match, especially when it comes to Cash Wheeler, and he suffered a really crazy injury, and that was the thing that was really horrific. But hopefully he's okay. I hope he's okay. Oh my God, my words are getting mixed up today. I don't know why. All right, so we get a backstage interview with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. So she talks about Nyla Rose, and then Nyla basically says that Nyla has proven twice in a row that she does not have to break bitches, because unfortunately, that being Britt Baker, is the baddest bitch on the block and still managed to tap her ass out with a broken frickin' wrist. You gotta love Britt Baker, right? So says that she keeps getting hurt and says Reba can't get the job done. Says that it's appropriate that they get somebody here, and so they can have their back. As long as she wears this title, we wear jealousy. Us fans wear jealousy just as well. And she knows that we are sitting there hoping for her to fail. She says that we better be prepared to suffocate, because then we get that ending in that promo. Yours truly, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. What are my thoughts on this backstage segment? Britt Baker is really good. Promo wise, I'm a really big fan of Britt Baker nowadays. I feel like she's doing a really good job when it comes to being the champion. I thought having Nyla Rose as her first challenger was kind of because I felt like, in my opinion, I was not the biggest Nyla Rose fan. I thought Nyla Rose should have been the first champion for AEW when the company started, but of course that honor went to Riho. It was not a bad match, but I was just saying. And she also did not have a really long title reign. Of course, Hikaru Shida beat her for the title at Double or Nothing last year. So, I mean, what are my thoughts on Nyla Rose? I'm just not the biggest Nyla Rose fan now. I feel like they're not booking her a lot at all, and I feel like they're just not doing a lot with Nyla Rose now. But Britt Baker, I mean, what do I think they're going to be doing when it comes to Britt Baker? I do believe that she's eventually going to be facing Thunder Rosa at All Out. I mean, of course, we all remember that non-sanctioned match that happened at that St. Patrick's Day episode of Dynamite. I mean, Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker absolutely killed it. That was a really good match. I really enjoyed that match, and I hope they wrestle at All Out, because All Out is set to be one of the biggest shows of the year. And, if you have a really good card, I feel like Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa deserve to be one of those matches on that card. That is my opinion. Of course, we get an announcement with Tony Schiavone. He announces that August 20th, AEW Rampage will be in Chicago at the United Center, which holds over about 20,000 people. Then they're calling it the First Dance. Of course, that is a nod with CM Punk posting on his Instagram story, of course, The Last Dance, which is the theme song for the Chicago Bulls. I don't follow basketball, so if I was wrong, correct me if I was wrong. But, I mean, of course, Chicago is CM Punk's hometown. What are my thoughts on this? When Tony Schiavone made that announcement, I mean, the crowd, you constantly heard those CM Punk name chants from the crowd. And look, AEW Rampage is their secondary show, and AEW Rampage is going to be airing every Friday at 10, right after SmackDown. And the fact that, I feel like Tony Khan is betting a lot of money, especially, putting their secondary show, a live secondary show, because I don't think Rampage is going to be a live show every week. There's going to be some weeks, of course, the go-home Rampages before the pay-per-views. Those are going to be the live shows before those are going to be the live shows, and then, the rest of the shows are going to be taped. But I feel like when it comes to this show, I feel like Rampage, it's only a 1-hour show, and they're holding 20,000 people in for that 1-hour show, a show that starts at 10 o'clock instead of 8. They're betting a lot when it comes to this, and right now the ticket sales are going extremely fast. And, with this, I do believe there will be some sort of announcement. I feel like the reason why they booked Rampage, especially at the United Center in Chicago, that holds over 20,000 people, is because of the fact that they want to establish Rampage as a success. And I do believe Rampage will be a success. Not only that, this is definitely going to... I do believe CM Punk will be making his debut on that show. A lot of people have been stating that he's going to be making his debut at All Out, but, of course, plans are changing, and we have this Chicago show happening, and the tickets are selling out fast. So they better have something that is CM Punk related, because fans are going to be extremely disappointed if they don't have CM Punk in that show. But I do think that CM Punk is signed, and I do believe that he will show up in the show. There's no buts or ifs. This show is, first off, in Chicago. It's going to be the first time they're going to be in Chicago. The last time they were in Chicago, I do believe, was November of 2019, and that was the Thanksgiving edition of Dynamite 2 years ago. Of course, the world went to hell last year, so we had no Chicago show. But this is going to be the first time AEW is going to be in Chicago, and it's not at the Sears Center. It's going to be at the United Center, so it's a larger arena. I don't think the Sears Center is called the Sears Center anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they changed their name, but it's going to be at the United Center. It's going to be a big deal, and I do believe we're either A, going to be getting an announcement that CM Punk is going to be joining the show, or B, he's just going to show up at the show out of nowhere. And with those reports of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan coming in, this is a big deal. A lot of stuff can happen, and for a show that's only a 1-hour show that starts at 10 o'clock on Friday, this is a huge deal, and it's in an arena that holds 20,000 people. And not only that, the show is called The First Dance. CM Punk is 100% good. I feel like they're announcing that CM Punk is coming to the show without even name-dropping CM Punk. They're giving all these small references when it comes to CM Punk. And this next segment that I'm going to be talking about definitely explains so. So we got Darby Allin and Sting in a backstage interview. Of course, Alex Marvez is freaking teleporting everywhere. So he says that he will be in Chicago, and says that he has been around a lot of men who claim that they are the greatest. But there's one place that you can prove it, and that is right here in AEW. Even if you think you are the best in the world. Look, if that is not an indication that CM Punk is coming in, I do not know what is. He completely name-dropped best in the world. That is CM Punk's he is the best in the world. That is CM Punk's main catchphrase right there. He is the best in the world, of course, in his height in 2011 and 2012. When he was WWE champion for 400 something days. Dude, if that is not an indication that CM Punk is coming in, I do not know. I don't know what is. And if they do not have CM Punk at that Rampage show, I will be extremely disappointed. They better have CM Punk in that show, because first off, they're calling the show The Last Dance. No, The First Dance, my bad. Not only that, Darby Allin name-dropped best in the world. So that can be an indication that, once CM Punk does most likely come into AEW, he will face Darby Allin in that match, in his first match back. So, this is going to be a big deal. It's an amazing time to be a wrestling fan. I will say that. It's an amazing time to be a wrestling fan. All right. We got Lance Archer versus Hikuleo for the IWGP US title. Of course, Hikuleo comes out with King Haku. What are my thoughts on this match? I like the fact that the IWGP US title is defended, but I will say that this match was kind of going on a little bit slow, and it kind of ended way too soon. Archer works on Hikuleo in the corner. We get repeated rights by Archer. We got a powerbomb by Hikuleo. We got a right forearm by Archer. We got a power slam by Hikuleo. Hikuleo sends Archer to the corner. We got a big boot by Archer. Archer with a couple clotheslines. We got a springboard moonsault by Archer. Archer tries to hit the blackout on Hikuleo. Both are on the top. We get a superplex by Archer on Hikuleo. We get a cover and a near fall. Then later on in the match, Archer hits the blackout on Hikuleo and wins the match. What are my thoughts on this match? I was not really invested in this match, I will say. It was not as good as Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer, in my opinion. I thought Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer was a really good match last week. But I was not really that big of a fan of this match. All right, we got a backstage interview with Cody Rhodes in gorilla position. And he as soon as he starts basically answering Alex Marvez's random question, Malachi Black instantly attacks Cody out of nowhere. Then both proceed to brawl. They both come out on the stage and continue to brawl. And then, of course, Malachi Black gets the advantage and stands tall. So, of course, next week we got that Dynamite homecoming show, which they're going to be in Jacksonville, which I'm really excited to see. And, we're going to be having Cody Rhodes versus Malachi Black. Malachi Black's first official AEW match. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in AEW, especially in-ring wise. He's a really good wrestler and he's a really good talent. I'm really excited to see what happens with Malachi Black. I do believe he's going to be beating Cody Rhodes because it'd be really embarrassing if Tommy End lost his first match in AEW. I mean, that'd be a really dumb booking decision in my opinion. I do believe that Malachi Black will go over in my opinion. We get a video package with the TNT champion Miro talking about his match against Lee Johnson. He says next week God's favorite champion will fight next week. Says that not because Lee Johnson asked for it, but rather he was tricked with prizes and competitions. He sees that this kid is really talented. It says that Lee cannot take his divine right away from him. Nobody can. It says he will know it. And says that he is a simple man. But there are two things that motivate him, and that is his vengeful God and a double-jointed wife. That was a funny-ass line by Miro, I will say that. And says that the glorious reckoning is upon Lee Johnson. And the little segment ends. What are my thoughts? Of course, Miro is going to be defending the TNT Championship against Lee Johnson. What are my thoughts? I definitely am excited to see that. I do believe, there's no buts or ifs. Miro is going to be going over regardless. He's not going to lose that title anytime soon. Miro is going to hold on to that title for a long period of time. That's just my opinion. Private Party and Angelico versus Jurassic Express, of course, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy and Christian Cage, my bad. So Christian Cage is teaming up with Jurassic Express. What are my thoughts on this match? This is another match that I didn't really care of. Again, the middle of the show was kind of but I'll run through the match. Cage and Angelico start. We get a wrist lock by Cage. We get a couple chops by Cage and Jungle Boy tags in. We get a double team attempt by Cage and Jungle Boy on Angelico. Jungle Boy with a drop kick. He sends Cassidy to the guardrail, that being Jungle Boy. Then Matt Hardy comes into the fray, but then gets chased away by Marco Stunt and Christian Cage. Jungle Boy gets sent to the ring. Angelico with the stomp. Isaiah Cassidy comes in, works on Jungle Boy. We got a double team attempt by Private Party. Luchasaurus tags in. He works on Angelico and Isaiah Cassidy. Then Mark Quinn comes in out of nowhere, and then Luchasaurus proceeds to hit a triple German suplex on Angelico, Mark Quinn, and Isaiah Cassidy. That was awesome to see. He tries to double chokeslam but misses. Private Party then proceed to attack Christian Cage. Jungle Boy comes in for the save. Jungle Boy jumps over the top rope. Luchasaurus drops Isaiah Cassidy. Then Cage goes to the top rope, proceeds to hit a frog splash, and wins the match. Then after the match, Blade attacks Cage out of nowhere with the brass knucks. So, Blade is like the subject of like just attacking random people after after matches are done. Like, what the hell? But what are my thoughts on this match? I didn't really care about this match. The only interesting thing was that triple German suplex that Luchasaurus hit on Isaiah Cassidy. On Private Party and Angelico. That's the only thing I was interested in. The rest of the match I didn't really care of. We got a video package of Nick Gage, so you get a little more of a backstory on Nick Gage if you're not really familiar with Nick Gage. Of course, we all saw, I feel like the majority of the viewer who watched Dynamite did see the Dark Side of the Ring documentary on Nick Gage. If you haven't, I definitely recommend you to check it out. It's a really good documentary. Dark Side of the Ring in general, it's a really good documentary show. I definitely do believe that, you should give it a watch. But, of course, I saw the Dark Side of the Ring documentary on Nick Gage, and it's really crazy. Nick Gage is one of those guys that really, a lot of people say he's a modern-day New Jack. New Jack, God rest his soul. But, I do believe that, I do agree that he is a modern-day New Jack. He will literally, kill you in the ring. Like, the guy is crazy. But at the same time, I have a lot of respect for Nick Gage. So we got Julia Hart versus Thunder Rosa. Of course, Thunder Rosa's first match after being officially signed with AEW. Of course, there was that report that came out that AEW did buy out Thunder Rosa's NWA contract. So now she's officially part of the AEW roster. So that's good to see. Thunder Rosa's really awesome. The match starts. Both lock up. We get a takedown by Rosa. We get a roll up by Rosa. We get a near fall. We get a cover again by a lateral press. We get a near fall. Rosa tries to apply the ankle lock. Hart gets her hand on the ropes. We get a couple chops by Rosa in the corner. Sends Hart to the corner. We get a clothesline by Rosa. Knee on Hart in the corner. Works on Hart in the corner. Rosa misses a missile dropkick. Then Hart works on Rosa with a clothesline. Then Rosa applies a knee submission. Hart goes to the bottom rope. We get a back elbow by Julia Hart. After that, we get a missile dropkick by Thunder Rosa in the corner. Then hits the Fire Thunder driver on Julia Hart and wins the match. What are my thoughts on this match? I have that feeling this is a really good match, but when it comes to Thunder Rosa, I do believe that she will eventually face Britt Baker at All Out. That's just one of those matches that I'm just really excited to see, and I hope that match actually happens. It's not official, but yeah. We get a Jon Moxley segment before the match talking about Hiroshi Tanahashi, basically talking about like how a lot of people in the Olympics are able to go to are competing in Japan, but he's not able to go to Japan. And then talks about Tanahashi taking away his opportunity, and he continues to run down Hiroshi Tanahashi. What are my thoughts on this segment? I mean, there's a lot of crazy things that happened, that can happen. I mean, I do believe that he will eventually face Tanahashi. I have that feeling that you never know. They can bring in Hiroshi Tanahashi to AEW and have him face Jon Moxley at All Out. Again, All Out is set to be one of the biggest shows this year, and I do believe if you want to book a super card of events, I mean, one of those matches, are not going to happen. Omega versus Hangman as of now. But you also have matches that could possibly happen, like Jon Moxley versus Tanahashi. And if that match happens, I'd be really excited to see something like that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. The Painmaker Chris Jericho versus Nick fucking Gage in the second labor of Jericho. Of course, it is a no rules match, aka a freaking death match on TNT. What are my thoughts on this match? Before I run down the whole match, what are my thoughts on this match? I will say that I had that feeling that they would dim down, the whole deathmatch style, because this match is a death match whether you like it or not. And it kind of was a little bit. If you watch like a CZW or a GCW death match, and you watch a match like this, I mean, a GCW death match or a CZW death match, whatever you want to call it, is much more brutal than what we've seen here. What we've seen here was extremely brutal, especially when it comes to TNT standards. But if you compare it to like another death match from like CZW, those matches are much more brutal. Or FMW, or hell, even ECW. Because ECW did a lot of crazy things too. But this match was not bad at all, and I did not expect for AEW to go to the lengths that they actually did when it comes to this match. Of course, MJF is on commentary with Popcorn, and the match starts. Gage is with the freaking pizza cutter, and he literally is like targeting. He's targeting Jericho right before the match starts, and he proceeds to cut Jericho in the arm. Then both proceed to brawl. We get a spine buster by Gage. We get a running boot by Gage in the corner. Gage works on Jericho on the outside. He sends Gage to the barricade. Then he goes to the top. Gage comes in with a couple right hands. Then he's superplexed by Gage on Jericho. We get a Falcon Arrow by Gage. Then Jericho catches Gage and applies the Lion Tamer. Gage grabs the ropes. Then Jericho goes for repeated rights. Takes Jericho to the post. And then Gage checks under the ring, and what does he grab? He grabs freaking light tubes. Jericho then grabs Floyd. If you don't know who Floyd is his baseball bat. Then hits Gage with the baseball bat. Then Gage proceeds to hit a backbreaker. And then Gage, now this is the funny part. Gage proceeds to cut Jericho with the pizza cutter. And then right after that spot, they go to the picture-in-picture break. And then the first commercial that pops up is a freaking Domino's commercial. That was the funniest thing. Twitter was laughing their ass off watching that. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen, bro. Like, I didn't even notice it after, like, I was going on Twitter after the show even ended. I just didn't care about, like, because I'm not the type of person that watches picture-in-picture. Like, usually during the picture-in-picture breaks, like, I tend to go on my phone. But then all of a sudden I look back and I'm like, wait, is that a freaking Domino's commercial? That was the funniest thing ever, bro. Apparently I heard that Domino's threatened to pull ads off of TNT. That's what I heard because of what happened here. And what are my thoughts on that? Screw you, Domino's. I mean, I never liked Domino's. I mean, I did like Domino's. I'm just saying, like, Pizza Hut is better in my opinion. I'm more of a Pizza Hut guy. I'm sorry. I'm more of a Pizza Hut guy. But that's besides the point. So, like, he goes on Nick Gage goes on a rampage during the commercial break. So, after the freaking pizza cutter spot, he cuts the head of Jericho. Gage goes crazy during the break, of course. He brings in a chair and glass. He brings a large piece of glass and puts it in between those two chairs. He goes on top, but Jericho tries to stop Gage. And then he proceeds to hit a Hurricane Rana on Gage through the freaking glass, which was extremely brutal. And I will say this, MJF on commentary was the funniest thing ever. Not only, I mean, he's really good as a heel on commentary. He's really good on commentary. I'm just saying, like, his screaming was the funniest thing ever. Then, of course, Gage proceeds to hit a spine buster on Jericho on the broken glass. Gage hits the light tubes on Jericho twice and then hits a pile driver on the glass. Takes the broken light tube and drives it to the head of Jericho. Gage grabs more light tubes. And then all of a sudden, Jericho proceeds to spit green mist on Gage. Jericho then he proceeds to hit the tubes on Gage and then hits the Judas effect. Proceeds to make the cover. And 1, 2, 3, Jericho wins the second Labor of Jericho match. But after the match, MJF leaves commentary and shows a segment from November of 2019. Of course, he showed that segment where Jericho and MJF had that really good interaction after the fallout of Full Gear 2019. As you guys all know, Jericho turned on Cody, he threw the towel in. He threw the towel in and basically cost Cody the match and then proceeded to low blow Cody Rhodes. And you guys know what happened there. So on that Dynamite episode, of course, they showed that line where basically Jericho stated, "It's almost as if your parents got horny from me beating up Juventud Guerrera 25 years ago on WCW Saturday Night, and then 9 months later, your little twerp ass popped out." So they showed that little line that Chris Jericho stated. And then, of course, after the segment, after that line, MJF was like, "Who the hell is Hoovy?" And then Jericho tells him in that particular segment, "Google it, baby. Google it." Which, what happens after that? They cut back to MJF in real time. And what happens is that he says, "I did Google Hoovy." So, what are we getting next week? We're getting Juventud Guerrera coming in on AEW Dynamite next week for the third Labor of Jericho. And the stipulation is that Jericho has to win the match by hitting move off the top rope. What are my thoughts on Juventud Guerrera coming into AEW? First off, I love the way that they executed it. I love the way that they executed it by showing that segment from 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, showing that interaction with MJF and Chris Jericho. And then cutting back to real time, and then MJF basically telling Jericho, "I did Google Hoovy." That was the best thing that they could do when it comes to bringing in Juventud Guerrera. And the fact that they're bringing in Juventud Guerrera, who is a legend in this business, is really saying something. I mean, Juventud Guerrera, even in 2021, looks great. I mean, he's in his his mid to late 40s. He's not that bad. And what I've seen of his modern in-ring work, he's not bad either. I mean, he's definitely, Jericho definitely has a challenge next week on Dynamite. It's going to be really good to see, and it's going to be really awesome to see Juventud Guerrera on TNT after all these years. Of course, he was one of those famous cruiserweights during the WCW days. Of course, you had your Eddie Guerreros, your Dean Malenkos, and of course your Chris Jerichos. I mean, those were and your Rey Mysterios, of course, and your Psychosis. Those are your pioneers of WCW's cruiserweight division. A lot of people can talk about the NWO and all that stuff, but one of the main highlights of WCW was their cruiserweight division. I love the fact that AEW is really honoring, in my opinion, the legacy of WCW. I mean, there was this one tweet that I saw, which I agree 100%, is AEW, for a company that only existed for 2 years, is honoring the legacy of WCW with only 2 years of existence than WWE has for over 20 years. I mean, WWE has owned WCW for ever since March 23rd of 2001. And what have they done with the WCW name? I mean, not a lot. I mean, they had the Great American Bash pay-per-view. They had a couple Starcade. They did Halloween Havoc just last year, but they did a couple Starcade house shows. But that's really it. They didn't really do anything to honor the legacy of WCW, unlike what AEW is doing. AEW is basically the closest that we'll get to a basically modern day WCW, not only because of the fact that it's on TNT, but because of the fact that it's formatted, and when you watch Dynamite, it really does feel like a Nitro show. That's the really good thing, and I love the fact that they're bringing in Juventud Guerrero for next week. I mean, Jericho and Juventud are absolutely going to be killing it, and Jericho's going to have to hit that move off the top rope. So, I mean, especially with a wrestler like Juventud, I mean, I definitely do think he's going to, because, I mean, Jericho, the majority of a lot of favorite, Jericho's best matches in WCW, of course, were those matches in WCW with Juventud. Of course, you can go back at Super Bowl in 1998, where the stipulation was if Juventud lost, he was forced to take his mask off. You never know. They could probably play into that story and be like, hey, Juventud Guerrero is getting revenge for Chris Jericho having him to take his mask off. So you never know what could go on. But, I mean, yes, I know it's WCW and this is AEW and WWE owns WCW, but I mean, you could add small implements from WCW onto AEW programming because, they have this whole Forbidden Door thing going on. Why not honor the legacy of WCW? And I think that's what they're doing when it comes to bringing in Juventud Guerrero. So it's going to be really awesome to see what goes on in this match. But overall thoughts on this show, I mean, I really enjoyed this show. This was a really good show to watch. I thought the middle of the show was kind of but hey, it is what it is. But overall thoughts, I mean, I thought this was a really good show, and it gets me excited. Of course, we got Cody versus Malachi Black next week at the Dynamite Homecoming show. I'm really excited to see what goes on in that show, of course. We also got Chris Jericho in the third labor of Jericho going up against Juventud Guerrero, which, with them having new Juventud Guerrero come in, who are they going to bring for the fourth labor of Jericho? I don't know, but it's gonna be, we're gonna have to find out, and we're just gonna have to watch the show to see what happens. So yeah, that was my AEW Dynamite review. That was Fight for the Fallen. Overall thoughts on the show: this was a pretty good show. But yeah, that was my Fight for the Fallen review. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. Not only that, follow me on social media on Instagram and Twitter. And this is Broken Havoc from the Broken Havoc Podcast. Signing out.